What's up everyone, it's Kelly and today I've got another swatch review for you. My first spring 2024 review actually. So today we're going over the OPI spring 2024 collection, which is called OPI Your Way. Now if you haven't heard of OPI before, I'd be a little bit surprised. They're a pretty big international mainstream brand, but just a quick overview, all of their polishes are 3 free, meaning they are free of DBP, toluene, and formaldehyde. So the collection I'm reviewing today has 12 brand new polishes. We've got a lot of your typical spring creams, but we also have a few non-typical shades that I was really intrigued by. And I have to say, I am a little bit conflicted about this collection, but let me show you the swatches first, then we can get into my thoughts on it, pricing, availability, all that good stuff. So roll the swatch footage. So as always, I am using base coat underneath all of my swatches just to protect my natural nail and prevent any stains. Today I'm using the Orly Bonder base coat as usual. I'm going to start off with the more typical springy kind of shades. This first one is called Suga Cookie, and in the bottle it looks like a shimmery purple, but once I started applying it on my nails, I realized this was definitely more of a sheer finish, and I actually really loved the way that it looked in one coat. It's super soft, it's super sparkly, it has this almost glass fleck kind of color going on in there, so it mostly looks clear, but sometimes you can see a little bit of color going on in the sparkle, which is so stunning. So on the second coat, I feel like I got a little bit more of that purpley color, but it mostly just looked like a silvery white, and then I was able to get the most purple color with that third coat, and it also did give me more opacity. So I really love shades like this where you can kind of choose what look you're going for. If you want something super soft and sparkly, you can just do one coat. If you want it to still be soft but you want it to really look like an intentional color on your nails, you can do 2, or if you really want that good color payoff, you can do 3. And of course, whenever it comes to sheer nail polishes, I always like to try them over black just to see what they look like, and this collection did have a good amount of sheer, so I tried all of them over black. This one I actually did not love over black, and I think that's just because the base color is a little bit too milky, so it ended up giving a little bit of a streaky look, but I do like that you can kind of see the colors going on in the sparkle, so I thought that was kind of cool. But the other sheer polishes definitely looked better over black, so I'll show you those soon. Next up we have the shade Verified. This one is a super soft pastel blue cream shade, and this one is nothing crazy original or anything. It feels like a super standard spring color, but I will say the formula on this was incredible. You can see the opacity was very impressive. I almost got full coverage in one coat, which is really nice for a lighter shade like this, but I did get full coverage in 2, and I think it looked really beautiful. Very self-leveling, very beginner friendly, just a kind of classic color for this time of year. Then we have the shade Self-Made. This is just another typical spring color in my opinion. We've got this slightly dustier green cream shade. It has a little bit of a pastel vibe to it, but it's definitely a little bit more vibrant. It just has that dustiness to it, and again, really nice formula, super smooth, super easy, looks really beautiful on the nails. I don't know what it is about colors like this that I think they look really pretty on their own, but when they're paired with other spring colors, I just don't love them. So something I struggle with, but on its own I think it's just a stunning shade. You know I love green nail polishes. Next up we have the shade Buttafly, and this one I actually didn't realize that this was a shimmer until I started applying it. It's this very soft pastel yellow color, but it does have a beautiful yellow shimmer running throughout that's super delicate, and I have to be honest, I did not have high hopes for this color. I feel like this type of yellow specifically is so hard to get opaque, and it usually just ends up looking super patchy, and you have to do so many coats to get the right opacity, but I was pretty impressed with this one. It looked really good in 3 coats, which I think is pretty standard for a yellow nail polish, so I did like that. I do have short nails though, so if you have longer nails, you might want to skip this one because it'll probably be a lot of coats to get opaque, but I did think it looked really pretty at the end of the day. Then we have the shade Without a Pout, just a medium pink cream shade. Again, kind of just feels like a classic color, but again, the formula was amazing on this. This was another one that was one coat on me, so I usually don't like to wear OPI in one coat even if it is a one coater because sometimes they still feel a little bit too thin, so I ended up applying a second coat anyway, but this is the type of polish that would be so good for nail art because it's so opaque that you don't have to do multiple coats of whatever you're doing for your nail art. So I always like shades like this, and I do think that it's pretty classic to have a pink shade like this in a spring collection. Next up we have the shade Apricot AF, and this one is a really soft peachy pastel orange cream shade. Again, just amazing formula. These light creams worked so well on me, so I was really really impressed. I do feel like sometimes they can be hit or miss with OPI. Sometimes they're just a little bit too thin and I have to do at least 3 coats even though I have pretty short nails, but I was really impressed with these. I do think that the coverage was really nice. Also, side note, do you guys pronounce it apricot or apricot? Because I've heard it both ways and I feel like it just changes based on my mood. Now the second half of this collection is actually a little bit different than what I expected. We definitely don't have the typical springy color. So this one is called Spice Up Your Life, and honestly it's kind of a hard color to describe. It's almost like a camel kind of shade. It feels like it's leaning between being like a caramelly kind of brown, but also being a mustardy yellow kind of color. So I didn't think this would suit my skin tone, but I ended up really liking it anyway. It's definitely a weird one. It's kind of verging into ugly pretty territory, but I do love a shade like this with like a very strong yellowy mustardy kind of undertone. I just think it's fun. And then we have the shade Material Gworl, which by the way, I do not understand the reference for most of these polishes. I feel like OPI is usually very good at coming up with cute punny names, but I don't understand the references for most of these. Like I don't know if it's a reference to something specific. Maybe I'm missing a pop culture thing, but this shade is actually really beautiful. This was my favorite cream in the collection. It's just this beautiful, very orangey toned medium brown, and it was a 1 coater on me. It applied so nicely, but I ended up doing 2 coats just to show you, and I really liked it. And then the rest of the polishes in this collection are what I would consider to be sheers, because you can kind of layer them over other colors like black, which I'm showing you all of them over black as well, but you can also build them up to more coverage. This shade Glitter I thought was so stunning. Just in the bottle, it looked like a beautiful kind of sunsetty color, and typically I would associate this type of shade with fall, and I would think it's just a very autumnal kind of color, but I really love the idea of shades like this being brought up during spring, because it really just kind of reminds me of the sun coming out after a gloomy, dreary kind of winter. So I thought it looked really beautiful in 2 coats, but I did try on a 3rd and I thought that it just looked even more intense that way. So if you don't like any visible nail line, you probably do need to do an extra coat, but the end result is so stunning. I think this is an instant favorite for me. Such a beautiful shade, and it really does glow. I also had to try it over that brown Material Gworl because I thought that they just matched together so well, and I have to say this combination blew me away. Again, I know it kind of feels a little autumnal, but I just think they look so stunning together. I cannot get enough of this. I do think this is going to be my next manicure because they just look beautiful together. But yeah, I also wanted to try it over black, and again, it just felt really beautiful as a topper. So I love shades like this where you can really wear them on their own, or you can wear them as a topper and kind of create new polishes with polishes that you have. So I thought that was really cool. Over black, it almost felt like a New Year's nighttime celebration kind of vibe. So definitely very cool that you could get a lot of different themes and feelings off of just one polish. And then we have the shade Glitterally Shimmer, and this one is so fun. This is another instant favorite for me. It's actually kind of a mix of iridescent and gold shimmer in here, and then we also have small iridescent hex glitters as well that just look really interesting. Again, I know not everybody likes this, but I love the look of a super sheer, almost naked nail with just a little wash of glitter over it. I think it just looks so fun. So I really loved the way that it looked in 1 and 2 coats. If you want to build it up to more coverage, you can do more coats. This is what it looked like in 3 coats, and you can still see my visible nail line, but if you kind of want this soft iridescent kind of vibe without making it look like a topper, you can always wear it over a white polish or over a lighter beige, and I think it'll still give that same effect without looking at your visible nail line. But this one was really interesting to see over black. It definitely transformed into a heavily gold looking glitter, but this is the kind of polish that I love experimenting with over different colors because I think it would look so different over, like, for example, a blue or a purple than it does over black. So it's just really fun to play around and experiment with different color combos. Next up, we have the shade Snatch'd Silver. This is another sheer topper kind of polish. And this one's interesting because it looks like the majority of the iridescent shimmer in here is the type of iridescent that looks blue when you have it over darker colors. So you can kind of see where the light hits it. You see a blue or purpley kind of color going on, but when the light is not hitting it, that kind of iridescent color looks almost like a yellow orangey color, which you can also see over my naked nail. So I feel like that could be a little bit hit or miss. I usually don't love this type of color over lighter shades because I don't love that orangey yellow, but I actually thought once I built it up a little bit more and I had 3 coats on my nails, I did think it looked really pretty, and I still liked getting that slight blurred visible line kind of look, but I knew that this kind of polish really excels the most over deeper colors. So when I tried this one over black, it looked completely different. You can see that iridescent shimmer basically turned into this purpley color, and those slightly larger hex glitters also turned into like a blue purple color. So definitely fully opposite of how it looked on my nails without any color underneath. So again, just kind of fun to experiment around with. And the final shade of the collection is this one, Glazed N Amused. This is another sheer one. It's actually a white pearlescent kind of polish, and it does have that brush strokiness to it. And the shimmer in here looks very intensely pinky red, which I thought was interesting. I will say though, this was my least favorite of the collection, just because I felt like it didn't look great on the nail even once I hit full opacity. When I had it in 2 coats, I still felt like it wasn't covering enough, and it didn't look intentional as a more sheer polish. It looked like it just needed more coats. But once I popped on a 3rd coat, I still felt like it just wasn't giving me the color payoff that I wanted. I just felt like that pearly shimmer in there was a little bit too subtle, so it made it look like the brush strokes were accidental. So I didn't love that. I'm gonna try to make it work. Maybe if I wore it over a lighter base color, it would look a little bit better. So I have to experiment around with this one. And here are all the shades together. So I definitely have some thoughts. I think on their own, a lot of these polishes, I really love that first row of polishes. The formulas were incredible. The colors by themselves I thought were really pretty, but looking at them together, I don't like them because they just feel like typical boring springy kind of colors to me, which is so funny because it really just is how I see them in my mind. Because if I saw Verified on its own, I would think it's such a stunning shade, but seeing it with the other colors, I just don't love it. The second 2 rows, I adore them, with the exception of Glazed and Amused, which I feel like I can make work for me. I just felt like these colors reminded me a little bit more of autumn, but I also just like seeing this type of color scheme in the spring because it does kind of feel a little bit like sunrise, awakening kind of vibes. I love the sheers. I think they're so much fun. I really loved the lighter brown and the medium brown. I thought they were so beautiful, and I do think that OPI tends to neglect those kinds of colors. We do get a lot of really light beiges from them, and then we get deeper browns from them, but they really don't make too many of those medium, softer brown kind of colors. So I was really appreciative of that as well. So yeah, I don't know, kind of a mixed bag, but let's talk a little bit more about it. So yeah, those are the polishes, and overall, I feel like this collection is kind of half and half for me. I will say the formulas overall were really great. They're very self-leveling, they're very smooth, very beginner friendly, but I feel like these typical spring pastel kind of colors don't really resonate with me. I don't reach for them too often, so I didn't love those, but I really loved the more non-typical shades of the collection. I feel like all those browns and oranges, and especially those sheer shades, really inspired me. So kind of half didn't like the collection, half loved the collection, but the real standouts for me were those sheers. I feel like you could wear them as toppers, you could wear them on their own, and it's just really fun to kind of experiment with shades like that because they're very transformative. So I was really pleased with those. I feel like it's kind of split into 2 different collections. We've got like the typical spring pastels, but then we also have a separate collection that's like browns and sparkly iridescent sheers. So yeah, kind of an interesting mix of colors going on here, but I will say I do appreciate that. I feel like they kind of have something for everyone in this set. So even for people like me who just don't love spring colors, they gave us a little bit something extra, and I appreciate that. So now let's get into pricing and availability. All of these polishes come in 15 milliliter bottles, and they do have what I like to call a medium wine flat brush, and they have a straight tip, but it's still very easy to apply them. Now OPI is sold in a lot of different places. I usually get mine from Beyond Polish, and there they retail for $8.80 USD each. And I also do have a discount code, so you can use the code Kelly to get 10% off your order there. They also do have the Orly Bonder base coat, which is my favorite base coat, and they do sell a bunch of other brands, so I will link them down below. You can check them out if you're interested. But I am curious to hear your thoughts. What do you think of these polishes? What do you think of the kind of two different feels of the collection where it's kind of split in half, or do you not feel that way at all? And also, are you a typical spring pastel person? Leave it in the comments. We can chat about it. If you enjoy my swatch and review videos, please hit that like button. It really helps me out. It lets me know I'm doing a good job. And if you're not already subscribed to my channel, please consider subscribing. I put out new videos every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And of course, a huge shout out to my supporters on Patreon, my Royal Astronomer Amanda M, as well as my Cosmic Admirals Paula, Ken, Rosie, and Angel. I really appreciate your support, and I'll see you all in my next video. Bye. Today's fun fact is a little bit more of a health update. So if you're wondering why I'm looking slightly different in today's video, I did actually recently have a pretty big surgery. I have a whole video about it on my vlog channel if you're interested. It was definitely very intense. For the last month, I've actually been posting pre-filmed videos, and this is my first video back, and I'm a little bit nervous about it. But yeah, and while I was on my hiatus, I also dyed my hair a new color, which was kind of a fail, I'm not gonna lie. I meant for my whole head to be like a dark wine red. Didn't work out that way because I did it myself, and I also previously had black hair, permanent dye. So I feel like it kind of turned mostly brown with just like hints of red, and then also my little blonde streak turned kind of pink. So I have to do a little bit of fixing, but it's not terrible, so I'm fine with it. But yeah, that's it. I'll see you all in my next video. Bye.